All right, as you know, this meeting will be recorded so that you can get it back at a later time. May's recording will also be sent out later as well. All right, again, make sure that your computer is muted. Your computer is, your microphone or your phone is muted. I actually like seeing your faces, so you don't always have to hide them, but it does help with bandwidth. So, of course, when it's time to share, I would love to see you, so you can go ahead and turn your video back on when that time happens. If you have any questions throughout the call, throughout the webinar, just put them in the chat box. Again, those that are joining us, put your name in the chat box along with your school system or the parish that you support. So the time is 8:05. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to our June call. I thought it was very important for us to meet today because there's just so much that we can take care of over the summer that's going to prepare us for the new incoming, for the new school year coming up. I'm already thinking ahead. So let's get started. Of course, like I stated, those that are just joining us, please go ahead and put your name and school system in the chat box or this parish that you support. You already know this webinar is recorded and you guys will get a copy of it along with invitation to the next session via email. Please stay muted throughout the webinar, but of course you'll have an opportunity to unmute yourselves to contribute to the discussion. Let's see here. At the conclusion, like I said, you'll be able to add on to the discussion. And of course, these webinars are all about supporting our students and families, but also making sure that you get the most up-to-date information so that we can continue to stay encouraged and inspired so that we can continue to facilitate a successful Louisiana comeback. Today's agenda, the introduction and sign-in. Again, make sure you're putting your information in the chat box, as well as the monthly call purpose. We'll go over that. Morning inspiration and activity, then introduction of speaker. And today's session is on presenter. She'll be presenting on Dropout Recovery Plan, a HiSET proposal, which I'm super excited to share with you guys. And we'll have some Q&A and some updates. So for this past year, our focus has been enrollment, engagement, and encouragement. And so throughout this entire school year, that's what it's been about for us with our partnership with LSU's Social Research and Evaluation Center in regards to enrollment, going back and reclaiming some of those students that we could not find from previous school years and helping them re-engaging those families and helping them enroll in school. And then we moved into the engagement process. And towards the end of the school year, it became encouragement. I know that some of you guys did utilize your certificates in terms of the encouragement. I got a chance to go to some school functions where they gave out the attendance awards and the excellence in attendance awards. And some of you created your own awards, which is great as well. And I appreciate that because again, it's our way of encouraging good attendance practices. Remember, the new attendance awards guidance will go into effect for the 2022-23 school year. starting, and I'm excited because Dr. Hornby, who is on the call, he's also a teacher leader, so he's in the background, but he's on the call with us. My executive director, we went out and started looking at the design for the medallions and the plaques that will be awarded to school systems that maintain the plaques would be awarded to school systems that maintain a 95% ADA, which is the average daily attendance, and the medallions for our graduating seniors that'll graduate in 2022-23 that you share with us will have perfect attendance or excellence in attendance during their entire school career. Remember, that guidance was already sent out to you guys. If you need a copy of it, just send me a email and I'll get it to you. The purpose, of course, of all of these monthly calls is just to cultivate a viable network for CWAs, but not just CWAs, attendance stakeholders as well. So I'm advising you and asking you as we go into a new school year, and even for these upcoming summer calls, include your attendance clerks so that when you're telling them something, they actually understand what it is you're getting at when we start talking about data and pulling reports and how the school should be engaging families before they even engage you or refer a family to you, finding out what it is the school has done other than just make a phone call. Location, of course, our links are sent out, and dates are every first Wednesday of the month, except if it's a holiday or something is major happening, we'll move it to the second Wednesday. But every Wednesday of the month, we're meeting at 8 o'clock to 9:30. And of course, if you have questions, comments, testimonies, want to share something, I think something should be included in an upcoming meeting, please send that information to me at shonika.adams@la.gov. And so you already know every morning there is some type of inspiration, but there's something that I did want to share with you guys that we don't normally talk about, because we basically say students are, if they don't want to wake up in the morning, they must be lazy or they just don't want to come to school. And that's part of the battle. They don't want to come to school, but there's some rationale behind it. So I found this cute little video from YouTube that I actually liked, that I wanted to share with you. And it's something that you could possibly share with families that you run into as well that are dealing with this particular issue. And we'll go over why I shared this video with you afterwards. So let's watch it together.
School refusal is a behaviour that can be associated with a range of family and school factors. It is often accompanied by anxiety and distress in a child and can lead to extended school absence. Supporting children to feel good about attending school and valued as part of the school community helps to promote their mental health and well-being.
School refusal is when a child experiences significant difficulty attending school and they can result in prolonged absence from school. When faced with the prospect of having to attend school, they can become quite distressed about going to school. They may cry, scream, or display tantrum-like behaviour. School refusal is more than occasional reluctance to attend school. In fact, it's quite normal for a child to miss some school during the year or have some anxiety around attending on occasion. Some of the signs or red flags for school refusal are trouble in the morning on school days. These children can be teary and plead to stay home. They can complain of stomach aches, nausea and headaches, and they can actually be quite challenging and oppositional in their behaviour, all in an attempt to avoid school. For some, they can actually try and run away in the morning on school days. There can also be trouble the night before school with difficulties falling asleep and protests that they aren't going to school tomorrow. Within the school context, these children can often be away on Mondays or following a break such as holidays. They can also be late to school and might spend time in the sick bay. Another red flag is those children who avoid activities beyond the classroom. Things such as swimming days, sport carnivals, and camps can often be missed. The children to keep an eye on are those who aren't engaging in the school activities. School refusal causes much distress to the child and interferes with their friendships and education. It also causes great stress for parents and school teachers. We know that the more time the child is away from school, the more difficult it is for them to return and resume normal school life. Over time, it can lead the child to feel less able to cope, and it may actually start to generalise to other situations. The child may start to avoid other activities like social events or sporting clubs, and may actually start to avoid leaving the house in general. Unmanaged school refusal can be a recurrent problem throughout a child's school years. Children may be at risk of mental health problems as well as early exit from school in later years. Therefore, early intervention is essential. We need to identify these children and act promptly. School refusal is usually associated with a range of underlying factors. These include school-based factors, such as anxiety about social situations, or situations where there might be a performance element, such as sport days, taking tests, or giving a presentation in front of the class. All of these can be overwhelming for some children. There can also be peer issues such as bullying or social isolation, and issues with learning and academic problems. And for some, there can be difficulties or conflicts with teachers. At a home level, there may be anxiety about being separated from a parent.
Consider support on arrival for the student. Do they need a space to settle before entering the classroom in the morning? Also, we might think about when a student has been refusing and they return, providing a bit of low-key praise for them is useful, as well as not drawing too much attention to them in classroom and just letting them settle in. It's important to respond to any school-based issues that may be underlying the child's non-attendance issues, such as dealing with any social or academic needs. Creating a school environment that promotes connectedness and acceptance of diversity may really act to reduce some of the barriers to school attendance. This can reduce stress, particularly for anxious children. Connectedness and engagement within schools may be fostered by providing extracurricular activities that really pique student attention, such as music or arts programs, lunchtime chess clubs or computer clubs. As well as that, establishing peer support or mentoring programs to increase a sense of connectedness amongst students at schools. Positive relationships amongst parents and school staff are really important for clear communication about what's happening. It's very important that everyone's on the same page about where the student is up to. As well as that, working with parents closely can provide us further insights and understanding as to what might be sort of promoting the school non-attendance.
School refusal is more than the occasional unexplained absence. It is a serious issue that is best managed early. However, there are lots of things that school staff can do at the whole school level to strengthen attendance and to support children and their families. Supporting children to feel part of a school community and developing their social and emotional skills not only promotes school attendance, but a child's mental health and well-being.
All right. So one of the reasons why I definitely wanted to make sure I shared that particular video with you is because before we get to, we've done this amazing job. First of all, I do want to say thank you so much. You guys have been doing the work to transition people from just talking about truancy to actually looking at the bigger picture of chronic absence. So thank you so much for the work that you've been doing in that area. But before we even get there, it's that underlying thing that we do skip over talking about, which is the school avoidance / refusal. Like, what are those underlying things that are happening before we get to a chronic absence situation? And so I think understanding that will help us when utilizing some of those tools that we've already started to enact, such as our attendance success plans in our toolkits that we're starting to build, which I'm super excited about coming forward in August. But first, if we're looking at it, it starts off with school avoidance or refusal, then we start to have that chronic absence issue. And then that's when it does become a more serious issue, and we start looking at truancy and court interventions. And many families who don't want to deal with that, or kids that don't want to deal with that, will just drop out. And today's speaker, that's what she's going to speak on, is dropout. So before we get to that, I do want to take this time to get some feedback from you guys. When meeting with some of your families, what are some of the excuses that you've been given as to why kids aren't showing up to school? Why were they having a hard time getting the kids to school? So if you can just add those to the chat box, I'll read them out. What were some of the things that kept kids from coming to school regularly this past school year? Don't feel welcomed at school. Single mom doesn't have help. Being bullied. That's one. Separation anxiety. And so far, the ones that have been listed have to do with connectedness, actually. COVID-related issues, anxiety, that was huge this year. Our families were scared to send their kids back. For our virtual setting, lack of home structure. Thank you for including that, because that's the big thing, because we do have our virtual schools. Lack of home structure and parental support, COVID exposure and transportation, refusal to go, hanging out in the streets. Yeah, skipping. Uniforms, school supplies, transportation. Parents had to work. Yeah. Unaddressed medical issues. Oh, yeah. And so can't keep up with the curriculum. Taking care of siblings. That's a huge one. And I remember someone actually told me while I was in the field, well, you have to tell those parents that it's not the older brother or sister's obligation to take care of the younger ones, and that child needs to be at school. And I was like, how do you say that with a straight face? Sick, and I have excuses, but missed 40+ days and didn't bring the excuses. That is huge. Working, that's another one. But definitely they have the case where I have the excuses, but they didn't turn it in, but also missing 40 days. And that's something we want to engage schools with as well. Like, hey, we can't help you with extenuating circumstances if you guys aren't getting the backstory. So if a kid is missing that many days due to illness, they may need an alternative because they're missing a lot of school. Virtual, no internet connection, or lost or sketchy internet. That is a huge thing too, especially with our rural parishes that had to go into working virtually due to COVID. Yep. In our rural areas, especially those kids that that say, hey, virtual is the best option for us because of transportation is an issue. Thank you guys so much for sharing some of the school avoidance and refusal comments that you've received from families in the field. And again, if you look at those, we even saw in some of your comments how it went past chronic absence. It went straight to truancy for 40+ days. But what we want to make sure of is that we're catching things. Oh, someone added, the parent is sick and the child brings home illness from school, but I don't want my baby to fail because I'm sick. That is so true. Some of our parents, they hear these things and they don't, I think that's why it's important for us to build relationships, because we want them to share these things with us so that we can actually help them with the proper resource referrals and let our families know that they're not alone. If you notice in our chronic absence letter home, we're letting them know that we're in partnership with making sure that their students are keeping up with regular attendance. So we definitely want to make sure that we're building relationships with our families from the beginning. Notice how the speaker in the video shared how kids they're avoiding things, but the best thing to do is to actually make kids feel welcomed. And that's something that we can start working on in the summer, like engaging with our schools, find out what their back to school schedule is going to look like, and actually add yourself as a part of it. I think we shared that in our first call, things that we can do so that families understand that our first interaction isn't going to be about me coming to you about attendance. Rather, our first interaction should be with me telling you the great things about when your kid comes to school, what can happen. And so just making sure that we're a part of those welcome to schools, welcome back celebrations, so that families, we can start to build that rapport and they can understand that CWAs, when they come to knock on your door, it's because we care and not because we're trying to prosecute. Hold on, I got some more stuff in here I do want to share. Mental illness of a parent keeping children home because they need to keep them safe. That's a huge one. I actually remember something like that in the field, and we just had to connect the family with some mental health support. And so that's where it's going to be great to have relationships with your community partners. I know that during our time with our attendance specialist, they were able to share out some community resources, and some of those community resources are mental health professionals. And so being able to share and refer families and also support them. So again, making sure they understand that school is a safe place and that you're there to support and make sure that a child feels safe and connected so that they can come to school and get this great education so they can be successful in the long run. We already know, especially with our little babies, like from K through 2nd grade, if they're not attending school regularly, by 3rd grade, they're not going to be on reading level. By 6th grade, they're going to be chronically absent. By 8th grade, we're going to be looking for them. By 9th grade, they're going to be most likely truant, heading in that direction, and then we're going to be dealing with dropout, and we don't want to do that. So we want to start teaching and partnering with families early so that we can attack those avoidance and refusal issues when they're young, so that we're not building up onto something that's going to eventually lead to a dropout situation. Thank you guys so much for sharing that. I appreciate it. So today's presentation is a dropout recovery plan. It's a HiSET proposal that's been done by Ms. Thomasina Joseph. She's the registrar at Scotlandville Magnet High School. I'm super excited to have her on this call because I actually worked with her in the past and I understand her passion for all students. One of the things that I was excited about was she invited me to hear her presentation as she was delivering it to a potential funding source for it. And what I wanted to do was make sure that you guys got a chance to see this presentation so that one, you understand that when it comes to attendance, if you notice, I'm all about attacking all things attendance. And sadly, one of the things that falls under attendance is dropout. So how are we re-engaging students and making sure they understand their options? Like, you don't have to just stay a dropout and not have a high school diploma or have some type of equivalent. There is an avenue for you to come back, and we can make that happen. So how creative are we being in that process? Well, Ms. Joseph has come up with this creative way to do that and re-engage students and bring them back so that they can have an opportunity not only at school, but employment and mental health support as well. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you guys Ms. Thomasina Joseph.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Thomasina Joseph. I'm the registrar here at Scotlandville Magnet High School. I came into this role into the 18-19 school year with enrolling and dropping students and engaging with students who may be potential dropouts or who have dropped out. And in doing so, just kind of seeing the lack of support that the students had when it came to academic, emotional, or mental support. And all of the other things that we saw in the video that helped to facilitate them getting to that place of being a dropout. Well, in providing support to them through resources to help them get re-engaged back into school, that led me to kind of be a little bit more fervent in reaching out to not only the students, but parents and other resources that will help them to, get their high school equivalency if they had already dropped out of school. Go to the next slide. So the problem is poverty in high schools and dropout affect our community in so many different ways. The three primary settings would be the family, the schools, and the communities. Through toxic stress in early childhood, as we saw in the video, have impact on our students through linguistic and cognitive and social and emotional skills, which you see the acting out, whether it's a temper tantrum or just not wanting to come to school. These impacts are likely to muted. Hello, can you hear me?
I can. Okay.
Okay. Was I talking or did I fade out?
Probably just on my end, because I've been having issues with my mic.
Okay. All right.
No, it faded out here too.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm sorry. So did everybody hear the last thing that I said?
No.
Okay. So basically, I was saying that the poverty and dropout rates are inextricably connected in the three primary settings affecting healthy children and adolescent development, which was the families, schools, and communities. And toxic stress in early childhood leads to a lasting impact, like we saw in the video, through linguistic, cognitive, and social and emotional skills. And once a student starts to fall behind, even as early as elementary school, it progresses until they make it or not make it to high school level. So the problem is there are set core academic skills that work-ready students should possess. However, dropouts and overaged and undercredited students lack these skills. The Louisiana youth at most risk compared to the rest of the country, according to a 2021 Wallet Hub study. In engaging with my students, I'm noticing that as well. They may enter into a high set program, but because of work, they don't finish. They don't complete that process. So in 2019, the Louisiana Department of Education reported that 3.2% dropout rate in high school students. That translates to nearly 7,000 teenagers that do not have a high school diploma. So the U.S. Labor Bureau statistics reported that 5.9% of people were unemployed, but when they specified it down to teenagers, that number almost doubled to unemployment rate. So you have overage, undercredited teenagers who are about to be young adults who can't get a job, who don't have the skills to maintain a job. Next slide, please. So how does a dropout rate look at the community level based on targeted groups here at our Scotlandville Banks area? So as I stated earlier, I entered the registrar position here in the 2018-19 school year. At that time, we had a 3.8% dropout rate. Once I started going to trainings and understanding what truancy and attendance look like and how that engagement with enrollment of students and the unenrollment of students look like, I made a concerted effort to reach out to those students who were leaving the schools or who had left, calling them, hey, what are you doing? Are you in a program? Getting them engaged and attached to programs that had a HiSET equivalency program either near their home or maybe where they work, to engage them into getting back into that. So from 2018, 2019, you can see that that percentage decreased by almost 2%. The following year for the 21-22, it decreased by another 0.5%. And that's with calling, I'm still reaching out to students from 2020 who have dropped out and started a program, but now they're not finished because of working. And coming out of the pandemic into now, you see that it's almost doubled back. And that's due to students being transit and moving out of this area and me not being able to reach out to them. Issues from COVID, be it medically or mentally, family structures where, you know, they turn a certain age and hey, you got to get out and get on your own. So we believe that our focused work on unemployment with the Scotlandville Magnet High School made the difference in the dropout rate. However, as you can see, the post-pandemic, it increased that rate. So we plan to try to change that with having a HiSET program here on the campus at school. Because a lot of times students can't get to HiSET programs that are set up throughout the city, but they can always come back to the high school. So this is just a chart showing the unemployment rate, students that are not employed, and employment rate from a 40-year time span here in Louisiana. And as you can see, we have more students that are not employed than we do that are employed. And that number is increasing. And every year, Louisiana is at the top of that chart of having the most dropouts and the most unemployed teenagers. Next slide. So the three fundamental tenets, we plan to address that issue. The first tenet being education through a HiSET prep instruction, where students will receive academic support. The second tenet is mental health. We will provide social, emotional, and intellectual guidance. And the third tenet will be employment. And that is an opportunity through the City of Baton Rouge through our Employer BR program, where students are partnered or paired with a city job here in Baton Rouge. Next slide. So the HiSET prep instruction, focus recruiting, and interviewing can be conducted for each student to ensure the best possible opportunity for success with the program. Students will participate in our intake process that will include individual interview, small group interview, and initial goals and expectations meetings. So for Tenet 1 through education, the proposed instruction delivery schedule will be every Tuesday and Thursday in a classroom setting with 3 instructional hours, up to 45 minutes of question and answer, 120 minutes of instruction and practice test engagement, and up to 20 minutes for breaks. And we will also have a virtual Saturday support session for an hour and a half, where it will be student-led and instructor-guided, and we will require that the students attend at least twice a month. With these Saturday sessions, they're an additional support to the Tuesday and Thursday classes, whether that's additional time with updating a resume, helping with additional questions from the academic or testing portion of it. So this is just an additional support to the Tuesday and Thursday classroom settings. The facilitator that will help us with this is MyGrit. It is a singular focus in increasing critical thinking. MyGrit course support academic outcomes of teachers and students through their proprietary effort learning action process. Through this process, students learn to identify preferred learning styles and understand how to best support their learning using this knowledge. MyGrit will be the governing agent for the curriculum, as well as the training of the teachers and the management of the academic support. For the mental health, as in the video, it says positive emotions can help students engage with learning longer because they stay motivated. Emotions during learning also impact our feelings toward education, how we feel. If we're always angry or someone's always yelling at us, that hinders us in how we learn. We automatically shut down or put up a wall because you're being yelled at. Everything's feel punitive. But if you're actually engaged and the reception is positive, or the feedback is positive that you're receiving, you're going to want to be more engaged in that learning process. Our students will also participate in social emotional learning via instruction group mental sessions, and personal accountability sessions. Supporting our efforts is an emotional support system, a Truth 180, which is a community counseling service here in the Scotlandville area. And they will help to facilitate our individual mental health sessions with the students, as well as group accountability sessions for the students. Next slide. So for Tenet 3, for the employment portion of it, we will partner with Employer VR, which is a program here in Baton Rouge that allows our students to be partnered with a strategic coordination of core programs and skill development, which include employment and training services for adults, dislocated workers, and youth. So they also provide soft skill training, resume building, advice for the type of application or jobs that the students will be a best fit for. And so they will also help to support the employment portion of this. We do 2 things. We help build the student up through the HiSET program. We also now replenish the workforce here in Baton Rouge, allowing them to have jobs through the city and even with the state, and actually help them to build on those skills if they want to further their careers with the city or the state. Next slide. So the initial expected outcomes from the first tenet, which is education, is enrollment of 50% of our first cohort. 80% of the enrolled students will complete a full practice test. 50% register to test for at least one part of the HiSET. 100% of the instructors will be trained. Purchased and assigned HiSET prep course to individual students. Conduct benchmark testing. 100% of the students will have an initial study plan and have 100% of the students trained on IXL to help them with additional academic support that they can do on their own online. And at least 75% of the students' participation. With the second tenet for mental health, 100% of the students participate in group sessions and 80% of the students to develop goals and beliefs in alignment with the activities through the social emotional learning engagement. Through tenet 3, through the workforce employment portion of it, 60% of our students to have a first draft resume. 25% of our students complete applications for workforce innovation through our Opportunity Act program, which is the Employer VR. How we can scale this program to go throughout the state to help curb our dropout issue is to train other school sites as well as possible community partners such as churches to model this program, utilizing former educators as facilitators. Maximizing secondary education options such as a PTAE program. Here at Baton Rouge Community College, the PTAE program is designed to help students who may want to work in the plants. They receive training and certification to do that. That would be an option presented to the students who participate in the program. The Louisiana State Employment Listing through Employer BR, through the city and the state, having jobs listed that we can engage the students in and build their workforce development through that. And also utilizing a resource locator called Harmonize. Harmonize is an excellent tool to help agencies and organizations create community resources, getting information to the communities about resources that they may not know about or may be underutilized.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Joseph, for a very informative presentation. Does anyone have any questions regarding what was shared with us today? I'm looking to see if anyone put anything in the chat. Okay. So what I want to ask you, Ms. Joseph, and I'll ask it for our team, is question. As the, I guess as the registrar, you would give the information on all of your dropouts. At what point, I guess at what point are you engaging them before they become dropouts?
I engage them prior to once I see the attendance, like when we run the absence analysis report and I see that they have so many, absences, then, you know, I'll call them into the office if they're at school at the time, or try to reach out to them and, you know, try to find out what's going on, what's causing, you know, that absence. Most of the times, or most of the students that I have engaged with, it is a work situation. They're leaving school early to go to work. And once they start that work, that leaving school to go to work trend, it becomes something that's kind of unstoppable. In some issues, they have to work. When one young man told me, he's like, either I have to work or I'm gonna starve. So it's like, what can I say to him in that, you know, in that vein? So trying to be able to provide resources to help him meet whatever that need is, that he feels like he has to work so that he can stay in school and finish.
Okay. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. And thank you so much for sharing your presentation. Remember, you guys, I'm going to make sure you get a copy of this presentation so that you can share with your systems if they're looking for a way to reclaim those dropouts, or take some of these principles and actually be proactive with it. So before a student becomes a dropout, what are some things we can start incorporating now, such as partnering? Many of our schools have opportunities for our students to graduate with more than a diploma. They have pathways set up. So just reminding our students of those pathways, like, hey, you can engage, or you can do a summer internship. Especially, I know a lot of summer internships are available to our students, especially in NOLA and in our northern parishes, based on the different pathways that they have. So just making sure that we're able to share options, make sure our students understand their options. That will help. So again, you'll get a chance to get this presentation as well as the recording in a separate email. So I
Just want to say one. I'm sorry. I just want to say one more thing. And just offering this as like you say, an alternative, because a lot of kids still want to come to school, but because of whatever the circumstances are, they're not able to be here during the actual daytime. So that's why having it on the campus, the kids always want to come to school, but it's just that the circumstances prevent them from doing so. So when I called about 10 students that I knew that I can, you know, put my hands on still from 2020 to current, and say, hey, listen, have you finished your high set? It's like, no, I haven't, because I'm working. Well, hey, if I had a program that can do this, this, and this, would you be interested? It's like, oh, that would be perfect. That would be, you know, I could work during the daytime. I could still come to school, and I can come back to Scotlandville or come back to, you know, the high school that they're familiar with. A lot of the kids got really excited, and it was like, thank you for calling me and let me know, what, what's going to happen. So the kids don't want to drop out for whatever circumstances may cause them to drop out. That's where we have to kind of fill whatever that gap is. And that's what I want to do with this program.
Nice. We do have a question in the chat box. When is your school planning on implementing this program? Next school year or in the summer?
We're still seeking funding for it, but we are looking to try to implement this in the fall.
In the fall, okay. Let's see here. Okay. So, Dr. Rhodes, do they consider students who are overage for grade? Let's see here.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What is the consideration do they consider students who are overage?
Yes. So the targeted group would be the 18 to 24-year-olds, or at least 18 to 21, because there is a high set waiver program in place for our 16 and 17-year-olds who may want to just go and get their high set, or the parents are saying that, hey, I can't do anything, I want them to go and get their high set. So there is a program for that group, but we don't have anything to re-engage our 18 to 21 or 18 to 24-year-olds to get them back into an education space.
Okay. So, all right. So what I wanted to do is take this time now to go back to our team, and based off of what we've learned with her presentation, and thank you again so much for sharing what it is that you're going to be doing at Scotlandville, and kind of giving us an idea of some things that we can offer to our own systems to, one, most likely be proactive when we're dealing with kids that are dealing with school avoidance so they don't become dropouts. But also, we also know that there are dropouts that are out there. How do we re-engage those, and how do we reclaim those? Because that's actually a stat that I would love to start capturing. Students that we reclaim and are now viable, employable citizens of the state, and how we've gone about doing it. So we're no longer 50th fighting for 50th when it comes to dropout. Rather, we become a state of increase, of getting better with that number, but also reclaiming our dropouts and making sure that Louisiana thrives through that. So I want to ask you guys out there, based off of what you've learned already, what are some other things that we can do to re-engage our dropouts? So based off of what we know already, why kids are avoiding school, especially our older students. I gotta go to work. If I don't work, I don't eat. So what are some things that we can do to re-engage that population? And you can share in the chat box. Help them organize due to, help them organize due to some not knowing how to prioritize life itself. Hello, these kids really think they're grown. And it's because in most cases, they've had to grow up. What else? We can help them prioritize. I believe Ms. Joseph shared how we can make sure that they are aware of certain resources that are out there. So if a kid is saying that, food is an issue, then we make sure that they understand where their local food bank is and how they can reach out to certain organizations. I do know, like, even this morning on the news, there was an organization sharing how they're providing meals over the summer. So there's that. What else can we do to combat or assist with our kids that are contemplating dropping out because of some of these avoidance and refusals that they've shared with us? Help apply for SNAP benefits if they are eligible. It's either yes or no. Exactly. I know I've had to help in that area. When I was in the field, I had one student who didn't know what to do or where to start. And the first thing was actually helping her get her state ID. She was 18 without a state ID, and she was in the 10th grade. So that was a first step, but also making sure that she knew that she still had a place at that school. Get local businesses to come to schools and offer after school jobs. Work with them and their school schedules. Everyone needs employees. That is so true. And in some cases, we're going to have to advocate for some of our kids. Because some of these businesses will say, hey, work extra hours, and they're keeping our kids out until 1 and 2 in the morning unlawfully. And so we definitely want to make sure we're advocating for them, but also reminding those businesses, hey, we have more we have more in the school that can be a part of your workforce if you continue to work with us. Let's see here. Sometimes just reaching out to those students and having a conversation with them, letting them understand that a high set is not a step down, but some students work better in a different environment. Just showing them they have a support system. Amen. Even you guys, you already know how I feel when it comes to alternative schools and alternative education. It is not a step down. It is not a punishment. It is literally another tier of support. It's that level 3 tier of support. So just, to step away from that, when a kid is sent to an alternative program or an alternative setting, the punishment is the removal. Now that they're at a different setting, that is the support, and that's how we want to engage and share with our students. So if a high set or a different type of graduate equivalency is what's best for that student, then that's how we talk about it. We don't talk about, well, maybe you should just do this. No, here's another opportunity. Here's another option that you have so that you can be successful. And that's what we ultimately want to see you as. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so, do we have any more? Make sure. All right. Thank you guys so much for sharing. I appreciate your input. And again, we just want to make sure that when we're dealing and we're talking about attendance, we're talking about everyone. We're talking about kids that are dealing with school refusal or avoidance. We're dealing with kids who are now, we consider them being chronically absent. And remember, chronic absence deals with unexcused, excused, and suspension. So we're talking anything that's keeping a kid from instructional time, we're engaging and we're talking about it. But also those kids that are dealing with truancy before they get to drop out, but we don't want to leave out those students that have dropped out. Just because they are no longer a part of our count doesn't mean they don't count. They still matter, and we can still re-engage. Anyone have any questions, comments, testimonies? If not, I do not want to hold you guys very long. I know I slated this time until 9:30, but you also know that I believe in making sure that you have some time to yourself, because if it's on your calendar till 9:30, nobody should be calling you until 9:30. So updates. Our next monthly meeting will be July 6th. At 8 a.m. And the only reason why I do want to make sure that we have that July 6th call is because of the second announcement. LACWAP is having their summer conference in June 21st through the 23rd. So I would love to be able to, for those that aren't able to make it, love to be able to share a recap of that with you so that you can understand what's happened. If you guys aren't a part of LACWAP, I encourage you to join that organization as another form of support so that you have other colleagues that you can engage with and have the support needed for your system as well. And again, their summer conference is June 21st through the 23rd. It'll be here in Baton Rouge at the Embassy Suites. You can visit their website to learn more about the conference and to register if you have not done so already. The next IAD TDP annual conference, that's that'll be in October 16th through the 19th. And that's the International Association for Truancy and Dropout Prevention, their annual conference, and it'll be in New Orleans. And I know I definitely want to attend that, and I hope to see you there because, again, Dropout is a part of our attendance initiative. So, of course, if you have not heard it today, you are absolutely appreciated. You are valued. The work you do, I believe it matters. And the students that you serve, the families that you serve, even when they don't say it, or show that appreciation, I promise you it's appreciated in the long run. So keep up the good fight, keep up the good work, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day. You already know, if you need anything, send me 3 dates 3 times and I'll set up a virtual conference for us. I'm here to support. That's my work. That's my duty to you. You guys have a great day. Take care. God bless.